Hello everybody, welcome back. This is Module 3. We'll be discussing eating in a calorie deficit and nutrition for weight loss. So I hope you enjoy this module. It's going to be pretty in-depth, but you're going to learn a lot, okay? I promise you. And again, like I said before, if you have any questions, we can discuss those on our first one-on-one meeting. So I wanted to give you a little bit of background on your metabolism. So a lot of times when people think about calories, they're always thinking about calories in. How many calories am I consuming? How many calories are on that bag of chips, right? How many we're inputting. But what I feel like a lot of people don't really discuss in depth in the mainstream is what we're naturally burning. Like our body's like a furnace, right? This is known as total daily energy expenditure, also known as TDEE. It's kind of a mouthful there, but it's basically how your body burns energy. So your body burns energy every day, literally breathing. It's burning calories to live. So we have three main parts. We have the active energy expenditure. So that's like you walking around, going to the gym, fidgeting, things like that. And then we also have the thermic effect of food. So basically, your body's ability to burn food. So when your body is actually like breaking down that food, it's burning calories to break down that food. So each food has a thermic effect on the body. Fun fact, protein has a higher thermic effect. So your body's actually burning more calories when it's burning that protein. There's a lot of studies that back this up. That's why a high protein diet is so beneficial when you're trying to lose weight. Body is burning more calories with that increased protein intake. Then we have the basal metabolic rate. So that's what your body is burning just baseline, like literally like just breathing, laying there sleeping. How much is your body naturally burning? That's also known as your BMR. It's really important to take into account your BMR. Generally, when you are on a weight loss journey, you decrease your calories, so your BMR starts to actually lower down because your intake is lower, so it wants to burn less. So we can talk more about that in the 101. You don't need to know too much about it, but just know that your body is burning calories already. And then we're going to talk about the calorie deficit now. So how does weight loss work? How does it work? So weight loss happens essentially when your body burns more energy than you consume. This energy is measured in calories, right? That's the energy input, calories. To calculate your calorie deficit, there's so many different calorie deficit calculators out there, tons of websites you can utilize. My personal favorite is from the National Institute of Health, also known as NIH. They have a whole website known as the Body Weight Planner. In the Body Weight Planner, you're going to input your current weight, your goal weight, you're going to put your height, gender, your activity level. It's going to factor all of these things, and it's going to give you your maintenance. And then once you put in more information on like when you want to lose the weight, so let's say you want to lose 5% body weight in 12 weeks, right? That's like our standard right now. Then it's going to give you your actual deficit. Generally, a deficit will be about 2 to 500 calories under your maintenance, right? So an example would be if your maintenance was 2,000 calories, let's say your deficit is 1,500. Okay. Basically, the more you restrict yourself, theoretically, the faster you'll lose the weight, but that's not super sustainable. We don't want a deficit over 500 calories. That's just under 1,500 calories is very little. So we still want to make sure that you're eating a balanced and nutritious diet and that you're not starving yourself. We're also going to talk about the macronutrient component. A lot of people just talk about calories, but we also need to talk about the types of calories that you're putting into your body. That's super, super important as well. All right, so let's talk about macronutrients. So macronutrients, just like in the name, macro means big. So these are the three main nutrients that we need to literally survive as human beings. We have three main ones. We have carbohydrates, we have proteins, and we have fats. Macronutrients, remember big nutrients versus micronutrients, which are your smaller nutrients that we still need. Those are known as your vitamins and minerals. I could talk about vitamins and minerals all day, but we're just talking about macros right now. So let's break it down very simply. Carbohydrates are our main fuel source for our bodies, for our brain. They break down into glucose, and that glucose feeds our cells so we can survive, right? There are 4 calories per gram for the carbohydrates, okay? Remember that 4 calories per gram of carbs. Protein helps with muscle building and repair as well as hormone regulation. It does so much, but for the most part, they correlate protein with muscle building. Now that's also 4 calories per 1 gram for the protein. Proteins you're going to find in like your meats, your dairy, your legumes, your seeds, things like that. Back to carbohydrates, you're going to find those in like your fruits, your breads, pastries, things like that. Fats, on the other hand, break down into fatty acids and glycerol. Those are just fancy chemistry terms on what they break down into. Fats are really important. They provide fat-soluble vitamins such as A, D, E, and K. Calories are 9 calories, fats break down into 9 calories per gram. So when we are consuming fats, we just want to be mindful of the amount and not overdo it with fat because they naturally have a lot of calories. Not all fats are created equally, however. You've probably heard of trans fats. Those are really bad for you and found in ultra-processed foods that we really just want to stay away from. There's also something called saturated fats that's found in a lot of greasy, fatty foods as well as red meats. We want to keep saturated fat to a minimum just to keep, our hearts healthy and everything like that. A little bit of red meat is totally fine, although I would recommend to stick to the leaner cuts of meat just because they're just healthier for you. Less fatty, less saturated fat, better for your heart. Some healthy fats would be like olive oil, avocados, nut seeds, coconut oil, things like that. But again, we just want to be mindful of the amount. We're going to talk a little bit more about macros in just a minute. All right, so macronutrient tracking. So we always hear about calorie tracking, but have you heard of macronutrient tracking? This is a little bit more in depth into the food log tracking. I am such a food track nerd. I've been tracking my food, my goodness, for over a year at least. But let's talk more about macronutrient tracking. So within your calorie allotment, there's also a macronutrient distribution ratio. So it's basically just a percentage of how much is coming from each macronutrient. So this is all going to be individualized depending on your current health status, depending on your preferences, your needs. I do have a discussion with your medical provider on like your health information. So you did sign paperwork that allowed me to discuss that with your provider. If there's any issues, just let me know. But we're going to take all of your health information into account to build a meal plan that's right for you. All right. So for example, maybe your carbohydrate allotment for the day is 165 grams of carbohydrates. Okay. And then we also want to take into account your protein and your fats. So the recommended percentage of daily calories from protein is 10 to 35%. So again, we're going to individualize that and tailor that to you, okay? It's not going to be a one size fits all for everybody in this program. In addition to protein, it is recommended that you get 1.2 to 2 grams per kilogram of body weight of protein, okay? We just want to make sure that your protein is enough, right? We really don't want you to be underfed with protein because we don't want you to lose muscle mass. That's really important in this whole weight loss journey is that you retain muscle. So we're going to need to make sure that your protein is well above the 10%. It's probably going to be closer to like, honestly, like 30%, 30 to 35 of your distribution. When it comes to fats, research suggests that consuming 10 to 30% of your daily calories from healthy fats is enough, 10 to 30%. Most likely for this program, it's going to be somewhere between like maybe, I would say, again, it just depends on your situation, but definitely no more than 30. Definitely no more than 30. Maybe like 20 to 25, something like that. We did talk about the different types of fats in the previous slide. We want our fats to be, you know, monounsaturated, polyunsaturated, coming from those avocados, the eggs, the olive oil, the fish, you know, like salmon, not the super fatty stuff, okay? And then for the carbohydrate ratio, that's usually on the higher end, but again, it depends on your situation. If you're a diabetic, especially type 2 diabetic or pre-diabetic, we're gonna scale that ratio down, okay? 65% coming from carbs is way too high if you have any form of insulin resistance, okay? So we can talk more about this in your one-on-one, but I wanted to give you a little bit of background that we will be tracking your macronutrient as well, okay? All right, so we're gonna talk about low calorie, high volume foods. So maybe you think of like salads, things like that. Takes up a lot of space but has low calories. Like fruits and vegetables naturally are just so low in calories. That's why, you know, as nutritionists, we're always promoting fruits and vegetables. They are naturally low in calories and they're super good for you. They're full of vitamins and minerals and fiber. So fiber is a type of carbohydrate that's found in plant foods. It's technically non-digestible, but your bacteria loves it inside your gut. So it's found in like fruits, vegetables, whole grains, and legumes. So like this picture here, picture of some oatmeal. I personally love oatmeal. I should eat it more, honestly. It's so yummy. I love mixing some apples in there and just a little bit of peanut butter, some sugar-free maple syrup, and some blueberries in there. Maybe sprinkle some chia seeds. And you have a really balanced, filling meal. Pair that with maybe like some eggs on the side. It's very balanced. It's really good to have that protein with the carb. But yeah, we really want to focus on nutritious and fiber-filled meals. On a later module, I'm actually going to show you some really easy, simple, high-fiber meal ideas as well as snack ideas. And then we're also going to go over some of the recipe guides that has a lot of fiber-filled recipes. Fiber helps you feel fuller for longer, and it actually slows down the digestion of glucose, so that glucose spike actually isn't as high when that meal contains more whole food fiber, okay? All right, so in the LunaFit app, there is the whole section just with guides. We have a whole meal prep guide. I'm kind of going to go through these a little bit fast because you can read through these on your own. But I wanted to give you a little preview of what's available on the application. This gives you a really nice image of like the portion sizes, right? So like vegetables, 1 to 2 fists, right? Lean proteins, 1 to 2 palms, carbs, 1 to 2 cupped hands, and then like the fats, right? We have like the 2 thumbs. Want to keep the fats just like a little bit, you know, not too much. I just find this meal prep guide really helpful, and I think you will too. So here's another preview of the meal planning guide. It gives you like a step-by-step on the meal planning process. So like for example, number 1, plan by looking at the week ahead and decide which day's meals you will need to prep for. So this does involve planning, okay? We can't just eat, you know, fast food every day. We need a plan. So you can follow this guide here. It gives you a cooking timeline on like, you know, your starches, your protein, your veggies, snacks, condiments, fruit. It breaks all of that down for you. Here are some additional meal prepping tips for you as well. So here's a weekly shopping list. So you can actually break everything down. I do recommend that you print this out and write it out. Maybe even just like put it on your fridge. You have a list for your vegetables, for your fruits, your protein, any other items, dairy, things like that. I do recommend that you write it out. Or what you could do, maybe if you have like a tablet or something, you can use that and digitally fill it out, whatever works best for you. I really like this weekly meal planner. It literally breaks down the whole week for you, and it breaks down all of your breakfast, all of your lunches, your dinners, your snacks, and any notes. I think this is super beneficial, especially if you're just starting out with meal planning. I recommend printing this out and filling it out, putting it on your fridge and seeing it. Use it. All right, so now we're going to go through just a couple examples of some of the recipe guides in the LunaFit app. What this program, what we're all about is we really want this to be flexible for you. We don't want to just give you an exact meal plan and then stick to just that exclusively. If that's something that you're interested in, we can talk about that on our one-on-one, but I give you all of these recipes that you can choose from. So there's more flexibility. Also, you don't have to use these recipes. They are strongly recommended. They're just super simple and delicious and nutritious, but you can always make your own recipes, again, as long as you're sticking to your calorie deficit, sticking to your macronutrient distribution as closely as possible. But these are ideas for you, and I definitely recommend that you check them out. So here in the recipe guide, this is a recipe key. So when you're looking at these recipes, you can check to make sure that it's gluten-free. Personally, I eat a gluten-free diet. If you're dairy-free, low carb, which is under 20 grams per serving, high protein, which is over 20 grams per serving, vegetarian, things like that, any allergens, this recipe key is super helpful. I mean, look at how delicious this looks, like mushroom and brie omelet. Count me in. All right, so I'm going to break down the recipe cards for you, just give you a nice little overview. So it gives you like prep time, cook time, how many servings, the recipe yields, nutrition per serving. You see the little recipe key there. It gives you the directions, pretty simple. And then my favorite part about these recipe cards is that we were able to put the MyFitnessPal code or barcode. You can literally scan this on your phone with the MyFitnessPal app, and it puts everything in there for you. It's amazing. So I do really recommend that you use these recipe cards during our program. All right, so now we're going to talk a little bit about logging your meals through MyFitnessPal, okay? Super simple. Now, in our first one-on-one meeting, if you're still having issues setting up your calorie deficit into the MyFitnessPal app, that's totally fine. We can do that together during our first one-on-one meeting through Zoom. But this is essentially what it looks like. This is literally from my phone. Right now I'm eating anywhere between, I would say like 16 to 1800 calories. Kind of on like a mini cut right now. That's a whole other thing. But essentially it breaks your day down into breakfast, lunch, dinner, and then snacks, okay? So if maybe you're eating some protein pancakes from one of our recipe guides, you're just gonna scan that barcode and it's gonna enter into breakfast, right? Now, if you are perhaps making your own breakfast, I do recommend using your food scale and your measuring cups to really make sure that you are in fact logging the correct amount. Eyeballing food, I don't recommend. There might be people that do that, but in this program we do strongly encourage you to utilize these tools. That way you are consuming the amount that you're logging, right? And you're not overeating or undereating. So I know it might take a little bit more time, but you will get used to it, I promise. And over time, you'll start like knowing how much is a cup, like looking, using a measuring cup. Maybe you're measuring 1/2 cup of rice and you do that over and over again, and eventually later on you won't even have to use the cup anymore because you already know what 1/2 cup of rice looks like. But when you're barely starting out, you got to measure out your food to know exactly what you're putting into your body. That way the data that we're looking at is accurate, okay? That's just that's just the name of the game, essentially. So you're going to input your food through there. Again, if you're having any questions or you're not sure, we can talk about this during our one-on-one meeting. So I wanted to show you what an example day looks like utilizing the recipe cards from the LunaFit app. So as you can see on here on the left-hand side, for breakfast we had that 5-ingredient protein pancakes. You can see the macronutrient distribution there. So how many carbs, how much fat, how much protein, it's all divided in there. And then for lunch, we have the pesto pasta salad. And then for dinner, we had the chili con carne, and then we had the vegetable chili salad as well. And then for snacks, we had those tahini protein energy balls. We can go more into the app again during our one-on-one, but this just gives you a really basic overview of how the food logging works. Congratulations, you've made it to the very end of Module 3. So next we will discuss all about just physical activity. So be excited, this is going to be a really great module. See you then.